Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first game week draft. It's a bit early for it, I know. Not all the transfers have been finished, obviously. We haven't even gotten to the middle of July yet, so we got lots of time before August starts, but I thought it'd be a good chance, since the game just launched yesterday, to go through the team and see what I'm looking at so far. I got a lot of different thoughts and ideas that I want to go through, so let's get into it and we can talk about the players that are definitely nailed in almost every single one of my squads. Let's jump into it. Okay, so starting off with a pretty easy one, Trent Alexander-Arnold, 7.5 million. Who is not going to have him in their squad? You'd be crazy to not have him in your squad. Okay, 7.5 million, way too good of a price. In my opinion, underpriced. Like I said in my price reveal video, I know it's quite long, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, 7.5 million, great price, definitely in my team. No questions asked. The next man from Liverpool, also definitely 100% in my team, no matter what. Salah, 13 million. I think he came in what 12.5 million last season, 13 million this season. A very reasonable upgrade. Um, I mean, he's just going to start every single game for Liverpool. He's their main man. With Mane gone, he'll probably be more the focal point of the attack. And even though he already was mostly the focal point of the attack, anyways. So Salah at 13 million is great. He could have easily been 13.5. So I think we got to count our lucky stars that he's only 13, and he's definitely still a steal at that price. Moving on, and I know that this may sound crazy, and it might be my Tottenham bias coming into play here, but Perisic at 5.5 million is a fantastic option, and here's why. Antonio Conte, he's managed Perisic before at Inter Milan. He's played left wing back. So in a three back system, he'll be playing basically on the left wing in a Tottenham front three of Kane, Son, and potentially Richarlison or Kulusevski. Those are 3 to 4 fantastic players up front that Perisic will be able to play off of. He'll almost be like another forward, and he'll be getting clean sheets as well. Perisic at 5.5 million, I think he's a fantastic player to pick. And again, if something happens to him and he doesn't play as much as we thought he was, Sessegnon at 4.5 is a fantastic option as well. That's later in the season, though. I think Perisic definitely going to start, at least in my opinion, he's going to start at the beginning of the season. So Perisic, 5.5 million, definitely the player you want in your team. Another 5.5 million and maybe a bit of an interesting one that he's in every single one of my squads so far. Neto at 5.5 million. I think that is fantastic value for a Wolves forward. Their fixtures look absolutely fantastic for the first 5, 6 game weeks. Now that we know that when the World Cup comes along, we're going to have unlimited transfers. So our wild card has to be used before that. So it's before game week 16, I believe. So if a team has a fantastic 8 fixtures, you're going to be wild carding around that time anyways, around game week 8, 9, potentially 6 or 7. So bringing in players for the short term like Neto, 5.5 million is a fantastic option. He's got great fixtures for the first 5 games, and I think that he's definitely nailed in every single one of my drafts. I just think he's such good value for money that I just don't see the point in getting rid of him. And I think that he's most likely going to start every single game. Maybe he'll rotate with Podence, but I really doubt it. So up next is my first debate in my head of what I want to do. Do I want to go with the classic 4.5 goalkeeper, bring in Raya? I didn't write him down, but Sanchez as well at 4.5 million from Brighton. Two fantastic goalkeepers, let's be honest, for FPL terms. Raya, I think last season was injured for quite a while, so he missed out on some points. So I don't think he was quite as high scoring, but he played a very good, solid chunk of the season. I think he'll definitely be their main man, obviously. But Mendy coming in at 5 million, so like a lot of the goalkeepers have come in a little bit not underpriced, but definitely lower than last season. I think Mendy started like 6 million, Allison at 6 million, Ederson at 6 million. This season we're seeing Ederson at 5.5, Allison at 5.5, and now Mendy at 5 million. I think Mendy at 5 million is fantastic. I mean, he's a top three defense in the league, right? Chelsea, or at least top three team in the league. If you're using last year's Premier League table. So Mendy at 5 million, I think is a fantastic option. I think he's the one I want in my team, but it really depends on what I want to do with the rest of my team. I'll talk about it in a little bit here because that 0.5 million can become very helpful in the attack. Um, so yeah, let's move on to the two center backs in this formation that I'm thinking about. Okay, so first up we got Cancelo. So Cancelo at 7 million or Robertson at 7 million. It's such a hard choice to make. I think it's necessary to have at least one Manchester City player in your back line. So I think Cancelo is the man for that. I guess you could get Laporte at 6 million. Maybe you drop Mendy down to Raya and you bring Perisic out for Laporte at 6 million. And you bring Robertson in. I personally don't think that's the best way to do it. I think Mendy, Cancelo, Perisic score more points than Robertson, Raya, and Laporte do, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, Cancelo Robertson is going to be a huge debate online. I'm not sure who I want to go with. The fact that they both didn't get price rises is really fantastic for us managers because getting one to even both of them in is great value. Cancelo I think got like 200 points last season. Robertson right behind him. Both players are fantastic. I really wish I had held Cancelo more last season. So this season, I think I want to get him in early and just kind of a set and forget and just not to worry about it. And maybe get Robertson in for somebody like one of the 6 million defenders we're going to talk about in a second. Or if Trent gets injured, you bring in Robertson for him instead. Or I could downgrade one of my forwards and bring Perisic out if he's not playing and bring Robertson in. I think that's the better way to look at it, and I think it's the better long-term strategy. Is just have Cancelo at the beginning. So I found this quite interesting. The fact that they had James and Chilwell both priced at the same price. I think that doesn't really make much sense in my opinion. Like James, although he was also injury struck, Chilwell only played like a handful of games. He only played like 6, 7 games maybe. I know his FPL points per game were ridiculous. I think it was like 8 points per game or something stupid or six. He was fantastic when he played, but James I think should have been at least 6.5 million. So at least it's a debate. If you're gonna pick James or Chilwell, I think you have to go for James. Um, I just think he's more nailed, less injury prone, and better, not potentially better attacking outlet. We'll have to see who can play better, but I mean, they also have Alonso still. I'm not sure if he's even going to stay. I think that it sounds like he's probably going to leave. But if Alonso does stick around, then Chilwell has rotation, and while James doesn't. So I think James, long term pick, is just the safest one to go for. So up next on my midfield, we've got Mahrez or Diaz or Mount or Saka. So this is going to be such a hard position to pick. It's basically the 8 million uh, pound elephant in the room. Do you pick Mahrez from Man City? I think he's personally the one I'm going to be picking, but I'm not 100% sure. You could also go for Foden. I didn't even write him down. I probably should have. Foden and Mahrez at the same price. Super hard to pick between the two. I think with Sterling potentially going and Jesus now gone, Mahrez definitely gets more game time, which I think he was lacking last season, which made him less of a good FPL option. Diaz as well. With Mane gone, I know they're bringing in Nunez and they have Jota there, but I think Diaz is definitely the number one left winger in that team. He played so well since he got in, and with the new five sub rule, I think that even if Diaz does get subbed off early, it's not that big of a deal because there'll be games where he doesn't play and then he gets subbed on, which is probably what we want in theory from these rotation risk players. Mount at 8 million. I mean, he's decent. I don't personally think I want a Chelsea forward too badly. I just don't think they have that much attacking prowess compared to some of the other teams like Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs. I think all three of those teams have better attacking output than Chelsea do, but we'll have to wait and see what they can do. And then Saka as well. I just don't think he's worth it compared to Mahrez or Diaz. But I mean, if you had like, let's say you already had Cancelo, Mahrez, and Holland, and you wanted to bring another 8 million, I think Diaz is perfectly understandable. If you have Trent, Salah, and Robertson already, and you want to bring in another 8 million player, and you can't bring in Diaz, I think Mahrez makes the most sense. I think it's really between those two. I put the other two there, Mount Saka, more for just debate, but I think that it's between Mahrez and Diaz in my opinion, and I think that Mahrez is just going to slightly edge it because of what I've done in my forward line. Okay, so moving on, Martinelli in at 6 million. I think he's fantastic value. If he can nail down the left-handed side for Arsenal, he is such a steal at 6 million. Again, you could say the same thing about Rashford. If Rashford comes in and Ronaldo, uh, rumors say that he's not looking to leave now, so if Ronaldo goes, you got Rashford and Sancho on each wing with Fernandez probably playing as a false nine with Eriksen in behind him. I think that could really bode very well for Rashford and even Sancho. To be honest, 7.5 million for Sancho is also somebody you should keep your eye out for. But I just don't think that he's going to fit in my team just because I think there's too many other valuable players. And I don't really trust Manchester United. I know Eric Ten Hag has come in and he's probably going to change a lot of stuff up, but I don't want to hitch my leash to that horse just quite yet. So Rashford at 6.5 million. The only way I'd be able to really afford him is again if I took out Mendy for Raya. And I just don't think that's worth it. Is Raya and Rashford going to outscore Mendy and Martinelli? I personally don't think that they will. I think that Mendy and Martinelli are a better combination. So I think Martinelli is probably going to be the one in my first draft, and probably will stay for the rest of the season. We'll see what the friendlies look like and see if Martinelli's starting. So up next in my forward line, it's the first of my forwards. I am playing a 4-4-2 right now, and this is probably the biggest debatable choice you can have. I'm picking Kane over Holland, and I'm just gonna say that the main reason I'm doing this is because I think that like we've seen what Pep does to new players when they come in. I know Holland is probably he's completely different than somebody like Grealish or Cancelo or Gundogan or any other Manchester City player who's come in. But every time we see a Manchester City player come in on big money, they always not necessarily ride the bench, but they don't get the game time that you think they would. You know what I mean? So I just want to be cautious about Holland. I think that he is going to do very well this season. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll be in my second wild card, or in my first wild card, sorry. Whenever I play it, game week 6, 7. I think that Holland makes sense to bring in at that point. I just want to see what Manchester City do first. I think that Kane 100% is nailed. Like, he's never not going to play a game for Tottenham. You know what I mean? Kane is so integral to the forward line of Tottenham, and we don't really have any other fixtures coming up in the beginning of the season. So Kane in is, I think, a necessity, at least for me personally. I think I think Mahrez is more likely to start more games than Holland is, if that makes sense. I know that sounds crazy, but we have seen Foden play in that number 9 role as a false 9. So like Holland could potentially get benched. I don't think it's very likely. I think that's very unlikely actually. I think there's more likely that Holland's going to start every single game, but we've seen what Pep does with players who come in. They usually start slow. I don't want to be part of the teams that start slow next season. Okay, and the last player in our starting 11, Wilson from Newcastle. I wasn't going to pick any Newcastle players at first, but once I started looking at their fixtures, Wilson's opening 2 fixtures look really, really good, and they rotate well with the Arsenal fixtures, and that will make sense in a minute when I show you the bench. But yeah, I think Wilson at 7.5 million is a really good option. He's definitely going to start unless they bring in somebody else. And this Newcastle team is looking much, much better. In the future, you could even look to bring in someone like Trippier. I don't have him in this team because I just don't think he really works for this style right now. I think big at the back is really the most important way to go this season. But at some point, if like say someone like James has a really bad fixtures, or if Tottenham have really bad fixtures, Perisic come out for Trippier. But back to Wilson, I think that he is a fantastic option. He'll definitely be on penalties, I think, and he'll be the starting forward in probably a top 7 team next season. So I think that he is definitely somebody that you should keep an eye out for. Jesus at 8 million, I think is a fantastic price point for him. And don't get me wrong, I would really love him in my team, but I don't really want to double up on Arsenal forwards. So if I'm gonna get Martinelli, I don't really want to get Jesus. If I'm gonna get Saka, I don't really want Jesus. So realistically, I think it makes more sense to diversify, bring in Wilson from a different team who can get goals himself. But yeah, Jesus at 8 million is fantastic. I mean, the fact that he is the same price as DCL makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I'll scream it from the rooftops that DCL is one of the most overpriced players this season. And you heard it here first. He's going to do very poorly. Okay, that's my main prediction: is that DCL will not do very well this season, and he'll be outscored by Jesus over the entire season. Anyway, let's move on to the bench and finish off the video. So on our bench, 4.0 million keeper, nothing too special. I have Gazaniga mostly just because of the Tottenham background, but also because at Fulham he is potentially has a chance to start. Like I really don't think he will. They have a 4.5 million keeper that I think will probably start. I don't even know his name to be honest, but I mean, you're kind of shooting chickens in a bucket or whatever the saying is. You're shooting randomly, hoping that you get one. And with the 4.0 million keepers, you're just hoping that the one you pick is the one that's going to start every season, or start every game. I think last season we had no idea who was going to start every game, but then Foster came in and you got him in on your wild card, and then you were good to go. You had your £4 million keeper. So now I have Tomiyasu here. I have slashes with Dunk. I think both are really fantastic options. I wish I could fit both of them in. I almost wish we had 6 defenders so we could fit all these defenders in, because I think Tomiyasu at Arsenal definitely going to start every single game. He doesn't have any competition at that right back spot. If somebody in the center backs get injured, Tomiyasu can suit in there as well. So I think he's a really, really good option this season, especially at 4.5 million. I think they definitely underpriced him. And then Dunk coming down 0.5 million. I think is also a great option. I know Basuma isn't there anymore. He's over at Tottenham, so maybe their defensive options at Brighton are worse now, but I think that Dunk at 4.5 million is a great option still. I think that he is somebody that's definitely going to be in the midst in corners, so definitely keep an eye out for Dunk. I think he's someone that you could definitely take advantage of. Maybe not right off the bat because they are playing Manchester United right off in the first game of the season, so you probably don't want him for that, but in the future, I think Brighton could have a very good defensive season again like they usually do. Moving on, we have Andres and Colback. Andres Pereira, that's from Manchester United. There's rumors circulating that he's going to potentially go to Fulham. I think he'll definitely start for Fulham as well, so I think he's definitely a great option for them. And he would definitely be the first person I picked when he moves to Fulham. So if he doesn't move to Fulham, and let's say he goes somewhere else, Pereira goes to a different league, or he just stays on Manchester United's bench, I think Colback is probably the next best option at 4.5 million. It hurts my heart because there are really not very many 4.5 million midfielders this season that are any good. So Colback, he might get some minutes, but it sounds like from what I've read online that there's also competition at Nottingham Forest. So Colback might even not even start. So like it might be a bad season for the 4.5 million midfielders, which kind of makes it a little more interesting. I guess your bench is a little bit worse than it used to be, but it is what it is. And last on the bench, no, that is not Mason Greenwood. So please, everyone, put your pitchforks down. It's Sam Greenwood from Leeds. He probably won't play very many games, if any at all, but it's always nice to have a 4.5 million forward on the bench. Just going to be third bench overall. He's never starting, he's never playing, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, this is the team. Please let me know what you guys think. This is exactly 100 million right now, so take it in, think about it. Let me know what you think, and please let me know. I have a lot of decisions to make, so if anybody wants to help me out, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below because I'm going to be sitting here tinkering with this team over and over again. But I do like what I have so far. I think it's a solid foundation of what I'm looking for. Thanks so much, everybody. I look forward to the rest of the season. I look forward to a lot of preseason content, so I look forward to chatting with you guys really soon. Thanks, everyone, and cheers.